Okay, so on this Memorial Day, we are commemorating our book. And Nelly started off the conversation yesterday, and I'm going to title this a commemoration of our book, Alive, Alert, Animated, and Swarming. So the U.S. edition of the book that Nelly and I co-authored, Reflective Meditation, Cultivating Kindness and Curiosity in the Buddhist Company, was initially published on May 26th, so today, 2023. It's our 2-year anniversary. And yesterday, Nelly spoke about the book, how it lives on. And I'm going to talk a bit about what is still alive for me in our book. So over the last 2 years, we've been asked to do a few podcasts, to have some conversations about the book. And after one of the podcasts, the person asked if they could use our name for their meditation practice, reflective meditation. Because in their eyes, our practices were so similar. And the other practice is a relational practice, which was really used to describe your present moment experience. So you would be speaking out your experience as you were having it. But this seemed starkly different to us, a very different practice. And yet we shared a lot of the same values, collaboration and emphasis on experience and self-honesty. So with this request, the teachings came alive, and the book, like the things we talked about in our book, just came alive. So I will use these definitions I pulled about alive. Alert, active, animated. I became very animated with this question. And the second definition is swarming or teeming with. And really, my mind just became swarming and teeming with the things that we wrote about in the book and how this applied just to being asked, can we use your name for another practice? So the first swarm or team or alive animated section was the language we use of overlaps and distinctions. So we use that throughout the book as a kind of language that would help develop the factor of discernment and a factor of awakening, this factor of discernment. And our book looked at the overlaps and distinctions between psychotherapy and reflective meditation. And there were quite a few nuances that we were able to articulate and bring out in the book. And recently I've been looking at the overlaps and distinctions between reflective meditation and 12-step programs. So this is to say that we're really looking at and encouraging you all to look at the overlaps and distinctions of Buddhist views and your own views. That we're not asking you to take on all of the things that we present. And this is a big deal to us. It's a big deal to Sanghas, we think, to use your critical thinking and not just take something on because someone said it was good for you. I mean, how many people come to meditation because their partners say, this would be good for you, or their doctor says, this would be good for you. But we're doing it because, not because of that, or because others are doing it, or because even Buddhist scriptures say that meditation will give you a better life. We want you to find that through your own experience. So this looking at overlaps and distinctions between our practice and the other practice really helped inform us in our decision making. So the second aspect is where we start the book in the introduction. And this is, introductions most people gloss over. They're not really that big of a thing. They give you a little bit of reference. But I really feel like our introduction did something different for me that's still alive. It really helped us discern our attribution who to give attribution to, how to give attribution for work that you've done, credit for your efforts, for things that matter. And we weren't so clear about it at the beginning. When we started writing the book, it emerged as we were reflecting on how we came together in this daily online meditation, how many people's voices were important, and people were hearing other teachers, and that became a very important part of our practice. And we saw that wisdom was coming from our conversations, and it didn't really matter so much who said it, just as long as it was heard and that it came out and that was visible to us. So in this, looking at this decision from this request, we really saw that we're not so lofty as to say we don't need any attribution, even though it doesn't matter so much. We saw that being overlooked or misunderstood or invisible or devalued is a kind of dukkha, kind of suffering or pain we don't want to pass along with our teachings. That it's really important that we find a middle way between over-attribution and no attribution. So that became the way we wrote our book, is through a blending of our voices, and at times pulling ourselves out to differentiate different experiences, because it was important to do so. It's important to differentiate also. But the middle way we found for writing the book is not set in stone. This middle way will be flexible. It will change according to different writings that Nelly and I do together, different teachings, retreats, etc. And we just see that the need for attribution to be done correctly to the best of our ability really matters. Okay, third area. I have a lot more. I'm going to have to cut this down a little. The third more, I was really swarming. The third area that's alive for me is addressing the marks of existence, in the provisional fourth mark that we put into the Buddhist teachings on suffering, impermanence, and not self. This fourth mark of we have needs, and we see this a need for recognition, for safety, for trust, along with the basic needs to survive and thrive. Now, this we have needs may look like a pretty simple, clear, true statement that we would all agree on, but we may not all agree on how relevant it is to be added to Dharma teachings. And other practices might recognize it, but keep it in a more of a conventional teaching, and saying that our needs will disappear in the absolute realm. And we could debate this for hours, because the absolute realm is often presented as conceptual, not expressible in experience, and beyond cognition. So what I can say about the fourth mark of existence is that certain needs do diminish with reflective meditation. A kind of neediness reduces, and in some cases disappears. But we don't consider not having needs a higher spiritual path in our practice. And in fact, we're suspicious of a claim that somebody may have to not having needs. And one of the reasons is that we elevated again the teaching into teachings is because of the abuse of power that we've seen from unrecognized needs that get projected on others. And in the case of U.S. politics today, the needs of other people that are not in power are considered weakness, not important, or even seen as threats or dangerous to those in power getting more of what they want, and more influence for themselves. So it really leads to a tangle. Again, in my language, beware of disregarding human needs and where that will lead to, especially in places of power. So two other places I will end soon. Feministic. It's easy to overlook a feministic quality to a practice in a predominantly patriarchal society. And diversity. We find unity in diversity. And we want our practice to be an ally for a diverse variety of experiences and voices, an ally for difference. And yet, with that, we acknowledge it's very challenging to bring differences together in the same path. So, all of this is to say that we did not loan out our name to other practices. We said instead that we're going to go through a very long process, it's a very long process, of trademarking reflective meditation. So we are now in that process. We've submitted an application. We've paid the $350 fee, which was donated by a Pine Street Sangha member who wanted the reflective meditation practice to continue, to be alive and thrive. And the application, it will take 7 to 8 months before we hear back. That's considering if we don't have any errors in the application, which, you never know about that. So writing the book and having it be useful, still be useful to the conditions of my life, maybe your life too, is inspiring. It really gives me a taste of freedom. And it's the kind of freedom that comes from compiling and creatively being part of a resource for living our best lives. And also another definition that came to me as I'm ending the talk is Robert Frost's definition of freedom: being easy in your harness. I will end here. And am I recording? Yes, I am. Okay, somebody's going to have to take these intros and extras off. Okay, I will stop it right now.